In this presentation, I analyze Indonesia downstream petroleum sector from a macroeconomic perspective. The downstream sectors plays a critical role in Indonesia economy because fuel is a key intermediate input for transportation, logistics, agriculture, manufacturing, and overall economic activity. However, this market does not operate under perfect competition. It is highly concentrated, with Pertamina dominating refining capacity, distributing infrastructure, and retail networks. As a result, the market structure resembles a regulated oligopoly rather than a competitive equilibrium model. Price formation in this sector is shaped by a combination of market forces and a state intervention. The government plays a central role through subsidies, compensation schemes, and price ceilings, particularly for certain fuel categories. In this study, I apply core microeconomics tools, including supply and demand analysis, elasticity, cost structure, firm behavior, market structure, and welfare analysis to examine how regulatory design and dominant firms' behavior influence outcomes for consumer, firms, and public budget. Ultimately, the sector provides a compelling case where microeconomics theory interacts directly with a public policy and national strategic objective. The downstream sectors covers the entire chain from crude oil refining to final retail distribution, including fuel terminals, storage, and gas stations. Indonesia's geography creates fragmented local markets. Distribution costs vary significantly across regions, which means that economic outcomes differ systematically between high-density and remote areas. In the Java, Madura, Bali region, often referred to as economic core, demand density is high, infrastructure is more developed, and private players are more active. This region exhibits characteristics of competitive oligopoly, particularly in a non-subsidized fuel segment. In contrast, outside the Jamali region, logistical costs are higher, infrastructure is less efficient, and distribution risks increase. In many of these areas, market conditions resemble a natural monopoly where one dominant supplier can operate more efficiently than multiple competitors. First, we have certain types of fuel, or JBT, which includes subsidized fuel such as diesel and kerosene. For this category, the government determines the retail price, the distribution volume, and even the eligible consumer groups. Because prices are set below economic costs, the fiscal burden is carried directly through the state subsidies. Second, there's a special assignment fuel, or JBKP, primarily represented by Pertalite. In this case, the government fixes the retail price, but instead of labeling it as direct subsidy, the mechanism operates through a compensation. If the economic price is higher than the regulated price, the government compensates the supplier for the price gap. Economically, this still creates a deviation from a market equilibrium. And the third, we have general fuel types or JBU, which are non-subsidized fuels such as Pertamax and other higher octane products. In this segment, companies are allowed to set prices, but within regulatory limits. Prices typically follow international benchmarks such as crude oil prices and refined product references. Competition in this segment occurs not only through price, but also through product differentiation, branding, and service quality. Now focus on two important aspects, geographic market and the interaction between buyers and sellers. First, geographically, Indonesia's downstream fuel market is segmented. In the Jawa, Madura, Bali region, competition is relatively more intense. In this region, the market resembles a competitive oligopoly, especially in the non-subsidized segment. However, in non-Jamali region, the structure changes significantly. Due to the high logistic cost and infrastructure constraint, entry barriers become much stronger. In the many remote areas, the market behaves like a natural monopoly, with Pertamina acting as a dominant. Second, on a demand side, we observe heterogeneous buyers. Industrial and mining sectors tend to be more price sensitive due to the large consumption volumes. On the supply side, Pertamina functions as the dominant firm with extensive refining and distribution infrastructure. Private multinational firms operate in selected high-density markets, contributing to competitive dynamics but not fundamentally altering national market concentration. This is fundamental supply and demand mechanics in Indonesia fuel market. Starting from the demand side, several factors influence fuel consumption. First is the price effect. According to the law of demand, when fuel price increase, the quantity demanded decrease. However, because fuel is necessity in Indonesia, especially for transportation and productivity activities, this response tends to be relatively small in the short run. Second is the income effect. Fuel is considered a normal goods. As a national income rises, purchasing power increases. Vehicle ownership expands and fuel demand shifts to the right. Third is the substitution effect. Over the long term, alternative technologies such as electric vehicles may gradually shift demand for fossil fuel to the left. On the supply side, the most critical determinant is crude oil cost. Crude oil accounts for approximately 80 to 90% of refinery production costs. Indonesia uses the Indonesia Crude Price or ICP as a benchmark. When a global crude prices increase, marginal production costs rise, causing the supply curve to shift left. This slide explains how government intervention alters the natural supply and demand equilibrium in Indonesia fuel market. Under normal condition, equilibrium price is determined where the supply equals demand. However, in Indonesia, the government intervenes through the price ceiling and subsidy mechanism. A price ceiling occurs when the government sets the retail price below the market clearing level. In economic terms, the regulated price is lower than the equilibrium price. To prevent the shortage, the government compensates Pertamina either through direct subsidies or compensation payment. The consequence is significant for fiscal exposure. Energy subsidies in recent years have reached hundreds of trillions of rupiahs annually. Moreover, when international crude price rises, marginal costs increase. If a retail price remains fixed, the gap between cost and selling price widens, increasing the fiscal burdens. Therefore, supply conditions are not only influenced by a global oil market, but also by domestic political fiscal decisions. When the government set price below the market equilibrium through subsidies or price ceiling, it directly affects consumer and producer surplus. From the consumer perspective, lower regulated price increase consumer surplus in the short run. Households and businesses benefit from a lower fuel expenses, which helps stabilize purchasing power and economic activity. However, from the producer perspective, if the regulated price falls below marginal cost, producer surplus declines. In Indonesia case, this gap is often covered through government compensation, but delays or mismatch can create financial pressure, particularly for a dominant supplier. At the aggregate level, price intervention creates deadweight loss. Because prices are not aligned with a true marginal cost, consumptions may exceed efficient level. This can result in overconsumption of subsidized fuel and misallocation across income groups, where higher income households benefit more in absolute terms due to the higher fuel usage. Beyond welfare mechanism, there are clear policy trade-offs. First is the trade-off between equity and efficiency. More targeted subsidies improve efficiency, but require complex administrative system. The second is the trade-off between market competition and supply security. Regulatory tools such as important restriction or a quota system may protect domestic stability, but can reduce competitive pressure and limit consumer choice. In this slide, I focus on a price elasticity of demand and why is it central to understanding Indonesia fuel market. Price elasticity of demand measures how responsive quantity demanded is it to changes in the price. In Indonesia, short-run fuel demand is highly inelastic, typically estimated in the range of 0.1 to 0.2. Over the long run, elasticity becomes slightly higher. Consumer may switch to more fuel-efficient vehicles, adopt electric vehicles, or adjust mobility patterns. However, these adjustments take time and require infrastructure development. Compared to developed economies such as those in the Western Europe, Indonesia tends to exhibit more inelastic demand. In countries with a strong public transportation system and higher carbon taxation, consumers respond more quickly to the price changes. Because fuel demand in Indonesia is inelastic, price increases tend to rise total revenue. This creates pricing power in the non-subsidized segment, particularly for a dominant firm, Pertamina, and for a private firms operating in a urban market. However, this pricing power is not unlimited. A competitive dynamics and regulatory ceilings constrain excessive price increases. Another important concept is a cross-elasticity. While overall fuel demand is inelastic, consumer can switch between brands or fuel categories. There is also a portfolio bid effect between subsidized and non-subsidized fuel. If the price gap between higher margin fuels like Pertamax and a subsidized fuel like a Pertalite becomes too wide, consumer might downgrade to the subsidized product. This creates revenue cannibalism and a margin compression. In a short, inelastic demand strengthens revenue stability but increases fiscal risk and complicates pricing strategy in a regulated oligopoly environment. From a microeconomic perspective, total cost consists of a fixed cost and a variable cost. First, fixed costs in this industry are extremely high. Refinery construction, upgrading units, storage tank, pipeline networks, and a control system requires massive capital investment. These costs do not change with a short-term production volume. As a result, the industry has a high minimum efficient scale and a significant sunk cost, which creates strong barriers to entry. Second, variable costs are dominated by crude oil purchases, which account for a roughly 80 to 90% of total production costs. Because crude oil is the dominant cost component, increase in global oil prices directly rise marginal costs. This means the supply and decision in Indonesia are highly sensitive to international market conditions. The core production rules follow standard macroeconomic theory. A firm will continue producing as long as a marginal revenue is greater than or equal to marginal cost. If marginal cost exceeds marginal revenue, rational firms reduce output. Next, we compare the strategic behavior of private firms and Pertamina within Indonesia regulated downstream market. Private firms such as Shell, BP, and Vivo operate primarily under profit maximization. Their decision rules follow the standard macroeconomic condition. Produce and sell as long as a marginal revenue is equal to or greater than marginal cost. When international benchmark like MOPS increase, their marginal cost rises. If they are unable to raise retail price due to competition and regulatory ceilings, their margin shrinks. In such case, they may maintain the supply, reduce expansion, or just focus only on profitable urban markets with a lower logistic cost. In a contrast, Pertamina operates under a dual mandate to provide the same fuel price across the country. The market cannot be categorized as a perfect competition because the number of major players is limited. At a national level, the industry is dominated by Pertamina, while private firms such as Shell, BP, and Vivo operate in a selected segment and region. With Pertamina controlling the majority of market share, above 80% nationally, the structure resembles a dominant firm oligopoly. Private firms act as a fringe competitors, mainly serving urban areas and a non-subsidized segment. However, this is not a conventional oligopoly. It is a regulated dominant oligopoly. A market interaction are not fully determined by the competitive force alone, but are constrained by a state intervention. At the same time, market power is not unlimited. Government regulation impose price ceiling, quota allocation, and distribution obligation, which restrict the ability of firms to exploit dominance. Unlike a free oligopoly, Indonesia market operates under a strong regulatory oversight. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources formulates policy, while BPH Migas acts as the operational regulator supervising downstream activities. There are several key regulatory instruments. First, retail price regulation. For subsidized and assignment fuels, the government directly sets the retail price. For non-subsidized fuel, companies are allowed to set prices, but within a ceiling formula linked to international benchmark and distribution costs. Second, the alpha and a margin mechanism. Regulators determine a reasonable distribution margin to ensure the companies can cover costs without extracting excessive profit. Third, quota and distribution supervision. For subsidized fuels, the government sets volumes allocation and monitors geographic distribution. This ensures that the fuel supply reaches remote and less profitable regions, preventing companies from concentrating only in high-margin urban areas. There are four main pillars of the entry barriers. First, capital intensity and sunk costs. The downstream oil and gas industry is one of the most capital-intensive sectors globally. Building a refinery storage terminal, tankers fleet, and a pipeline, infrastructures require extremely large investment. This creates significant sunk cost risk, discouraging potential entrants. Second, economies of scale. The incumbent, Pertamina, operates at very large volume. Its fixed costs are spread across billions of liters of fuels, resulting in a lower average total cost per unit. A new entrant with a smaller volume will face higher average costs and struggle to compete on a price. Third, regulatory barriers. Entry requires licensing, minimum storage ownership, guaranteed supply commitment, and compliance with a fuel reserves obligation. And fourth, geographically complexity. Indonesia archipelagic structures creates high distribution costs, particularly in remote regions. As a result, private firms tend to concentrate only in a dense, high-income urban markets, while remote regions often function as a natural monopoly served by the incumbent. To conclude, Indonesia's downstream petroleum sector demonstrates how macroeconomic theory operates within a broader political and institutional framework. It is concentrated industry led by Pertamina, operating under tight regulatory supervision. Demand is highly inelastic. Entry barriers are substantial and price mechanisms are partially shaped by a public policy rather than a pure market equilibrium. Government intervention through subsidies and price ceilings provides short-term stability and protects purchasing power. However, this intervention also introduces a fiscal pressure, allocative inefficiency, and a complex strategic behavior at a firm level. Private firms operate under a profit maximization logic within regulatory constraint, while Pertamina carries a dual mandate, balancing commercial sustainability within a national service obligation. The key takeaway is that this market is intentionally designed. It prioritizes energy security, social stability, and national control, sometimes at the expense of pure efficiency. Going forward, the central challenge is not whether the state should intervene, but how to calibrate intervention so that fiscal sustainability and competitive discipline and equitable access to energy can coexist. That balance will ultimately save the long-term resilience of Indonesia's energy system.